Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out here again on a very cold night. It's a great crowd, and I was thrilled when I was asked if I would speak about the Young Leaders Program and the experiences that I've had with it and what it's meant to me, just because it has had such a significant impact. As Charles mentioned, my husband did it this year. I think he applied in large part because I wouldn't stop talking about it. So he was curious to find out what this program was all about. And it is to a point where we've talked about our daughter in a few years applying for the program. She's 5 months old, so it'll be a while. But it is such a strong, rich program that I think there are very few programs like it in terms of a cultural exchange. That what Charles mentioned earlier, it's about sharing experiences and learning from each other. But it really goes so much deeper than that. To have a group of Americans and French participate in a 2-year program for 5 days each, it's tough when you just look at the schedule of events, which there's a very robust formal program that alone I think would make many people want to participate in it because of the richness of that exposure to events that are with the government, that are in the private sector with businesses, and that are also culturally inclined. And so you have this really robust formal program that serves really though as the backdrop for what I think was the more important part of the program, which was really interacting and meeting other young leaders who come across from a variety of walks of life in both the US and France. And again, I think there's been the theme of talking about the bubble that we sometimes tend to live in. And being a corporate attorney now for Gibson Dunn, I work with a lot of bankers and other attorneys, and I feel like I am a very, very big world apart from my former life as a Marine Corps officer who deployed around the globe. And I had been inspired to join the Marine Corps because I did want to travel. I wanted to meet people with different backgrounds and learn how they approached their life, what inspired them, what were their goals or motivations, and to try to learn from that. And I saw in the French American Foundation a program that would allow me to do that with our French counterparts. And that was something that was really, I thought would be a really interesting experience, and the worst case I figured we could drink some decent wine, which was a good motivation as well. And getting into the program, I participated last year in Le Havre in Paris, and just meeting the group of both Americans and French in the backdrop of trips to the National Assembly, and we also went up to Le Havre and saw the port there, which as a former logistician from the Marine Corps, we always were on the side. They wouldn't let us touch things because we would break them. So it was pretty exciting to be able to actually see the inner workings of a French port and how it was really trying to build an international trade at that, because our host in Le Havre was the mayor, who had been a young leader previously. And it was a really interesting experience to be able to have this conversation, have these experiences with people from the government, from the business sector, and from nonprofits, as well as there were some military individuals as well. And it was just very touching. I think we went to Normandy, and I think from people having military experience, it was a very powerful opportunity to visit Normandy and the beaches where so many from both sides had sacrificed, and to be in a group that was not just Americans, which I think is how most, especially military, have visited, but to really understand and appreciate, I think for the first time, the sacrifices that took place on both sides of the Atlantic. We had an individual who had fought for France, was our tour guide, and to hear his stories really brought the transatlantic relationship to life for, I know, a number of the people in our group in a way that had just not happened previously. And these formal program events really served as this backdrop that we could develop friendships and professional relationships that I think will be enduring throughout the 2 years of the program as well as in the many years to come. And I think that hearing that the network of young leaders is going to be expanding and really bringing those young leaders and their experiences together in a professional context as well as a personal context is something that excites me because the 2 years and the 5 days in each is a wonderful experience. It develops extremely deep bonds between the people who have participated. I still am in touch with a lot of the people that are on both sides of the Atlantic, and I use them as a resource for professional contacts and interest and careers, as well as for personal, with families and just the daily life and seeing how things take place in France and how things take place in America, and learning from both of those to figure out the right way forward as transatlantic partners. And I think that with a network developing in the future, that's something that really excites me, because we do have a great bond that gets formed. And I think the selection committee for the French American Foundation Young Leaders Program really deserves a lot of applause. I don't know how they do it, but they managed to select people that not only look good on paper and have interesting backgrounds, but are really interesting, dynamic leaders that are a pleasure to talk to, a pleasure to work with, and they really understand, I think, are just amazing ambassadors and representatives of their countries, of the professions that they belong to, and are really committed towards developing the partnership between the two countries in the future. And I'm thrilled to have been a part of it, the program, and look forward to continuing in the future. So thank you very much.